Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mind Castle podcast. We hinted at this in a previous episode, this concept of the Law of Inversion. And at least that's what I'm calling it. I don't know if other people call it that, but that's the name I came up with it. So I stumbled on this the other day and figured we'd get into it. Turns out you seem to have bumped into this from a different angle as well. So probably, without further ado, I think we just leap in and let's see where these two things intersect, because we actually haven't talked about this before. So who knows? I feel like we may be coming at this from very different angles. I found this on the internet from something called How to Win at Anything is the concept. And he mentions the law of inversion, but there's a lot more to it as well. So it starts with obviously the breakdown of like, well, what is it that you need to win? How are you going to do it? Why are you going to do it? Who are you going to be to, the typical stuff.
Who are you going to beat?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or who are you going to be to, never mind. Anyways. But to break that down, what do you need to win at whatever the thing is? Building a business, being a great husband, whatever. The key here is to start us off, thinking about the person that matters most, which this can get a little iffy. And this person was not a Christian who said this, so I don't necessarily agree with this, but he's got a point. The future you. When you're making these decisions, keeping that in the forefront of your mind, like you in the future. It is crazy how easy it is to think of our future selves as if it were someone else. Yeah. And not treat future you kindly. Like eating a whole quart of ice cream or something, and then future you says, that hurt, don't do that. Things like that. So what is it that you need to win? It's because, be careful about comparing yourself to others, but instead compare yourself to like, where do I want to end up myself? Like where am I trying to go? Because you can only control yourself. You can't really control what other people do. So, so that's the basic premise. So law of inversion. It is always easier for our brains to find problems than it is to find solutions.
Yes.
So take whatever the thing is, and then imagine the least successful version of yourself in that thing. It'd be really helpful if we had an example. What kind of person would you need to be to do or not do to guarantee for sure that you would not win? Because again, remember, our brains are very good at coming up with excuses and problems. So I don't know
what's you would not win.
let's say like, man, what's just like, you could use this for anything, okay. Getting healthy this year. We're at the beginning of a new year.
Yes.
Everybody's making New Year's resolutions of like, I'm going to get jacked. I'm going to take really good care of myself. I'm going to blah, 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 get a gym membership. What would you need to do to be the least successful version of you in the future of that thing? Well, that's really easy. We can come up with a lot of good ideas, right? Definitely do not get a gym membership. Definitely do not hang out with people who care about health. Don't care about what you eat. Don't drink water, just drink soda. Let's see, what's a couple others? Definitely don't move. Get a desk job. If you have a job that's active, quit that job and go get a desk job for sure. Let's see, what's a couple other things? Yeah, I don't know.
Don't get any accountability or trainer or anything like that.
Yeah, make sure your friends also sit around and play video games. Get a Netflix account. Definitely
there you
get
go.
a Netflix.
That's a big one.
Because that's
first.
That's becoming a theme of this podcast.
Then,
I keep telling you to not get Netflix, but anyway.
Yeah. Then you'll make complaints about a complaint.
Yeah,
and make excuses.
Blame other people for everything. So, and seriously do this. You do out of listening.
I mean, don't do that part, but yeah.
I mean, like literally get out a pen and paper and actually make the list of what it would take to guarantee
so depressed.
Whatever thing it is that you will not win, to be the least successful future version of yourself in whatever that thing may be, getting that promotion at your job, getting healthy, whatever. And then all you do is take that list and flip it around. Bingo, that's your to-do list. And it is amazing how well this works. It is so simple, but it is kind of revolutionary because, again, our brains are very good at finding problems instead of solutions. Everybody likes to have that little Eeyore bend. Like, we see this all the time. You present a new project to your team and immediately everybody's like, well, that won't work because blah, blah, blah. We're very, very good at that. So all you want to do is take that slight pessimistic bent that we can all kind of have and, ability to find problems, take that and work it to your advantage. And suddenly you start coming up with solutions you never even dreamed of. So then when you do that, you make a list to guarantee that you won't win. Now invert it, whoop, and there you go. So you can use this for all kinds of things, not just practical things of like get a better job or whatever. You can use this for things that we often don't think of as like to-do list items. Here's an example. Be more charismatic. We've heard that one, right? If I'm like, bruh, you need to be more charismatic. Like you need to be more engaging with people.
I've
you need
never
to,
heard that.
all that. Well, but people, whatever, fine. But if you work in any kind of communications, this could be a very helpful skill, right? Whatever you lead a team, whatever. If I were to come up to someone and be like, what would really help you right now is if you would just be more charismatic, man.
Be happier, be better.
Yeah, be whatever. And if they would just be like, okay, like
I'm not impressed.
now what? Yeah, great. Now what? But all you have to do, because like that's so nebulous, right?
Right.
Just be more charismatic. No, take it and find what would guarantee flip it that you would not be charismatic at all, like terrible, bad, and then invert that list. So actually do this exercise at home, whatever, write down what it would take to not be that nice, personable person that people want to be around, right? And then flip the list. And then suddenly you come up with a to-do list of how to be charismatic.
Exactly.
And boom, you just hack the system. So for example, if you're struggling with this and you need to be more personable, like if you work with a team, you do project presentations, it's actually a very valuable skill. It can make a huge difference on how well your job or your whatever interactions go. So you flip the list and you'll come up with something like this, and suddenly it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Smile when people walk in. Change the emphasis and tonality when you're speaking. Remember people's names. Ask people about themselves. Keep eye contact when people talk. Address everyone in the room when exiting and entering. All of a sudden now we have this perfect to-do list. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I can smile when someone walks in. I can stand up and shake their hand. I can try to remember the name. I could try that.
Yeah.
And suddenly, boom, people are like, wow, you're okay. I like being around Bubba. He's like really cool. Like, I like this. Wow, what changed with him? You see the difference?
Yeah.
You can use this for all kinds of stuff. You can use this for whatever thing that you like. We typically don't think of like having to-do lists of that thing, but it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, it's not intuitive at all. Like you have to do the whole backward flip situation. And that's why I call this the Law of Inversion. I just made that up. I don't know if that's actually true.
It sounds really smart.
But it sounds cool. Yeah. So yeah, what do you think?
See, that's interesting. So last episode we talked about Mexico and learning Spanish. That's basically exactly what I did with that, because like halfway through, I basically ran out of all my steam and all the excitement of everything of like, woohoo, learn another language. Yeah, I'm gonna be fluent. It's gonna be great. And I was like, I'm halfway through, man. I still can't like really get along with people or talk with people very well. And so then I was just like, all right, I need like a game plan. I need like, what is my goal? And so I was like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is I go home and I regret that I did not give it my all. I regret that I didn't put myself in situations where I was forced to learn or have cool experiences because I was too afraid, because it's a really scary thing. You might tell someone that their face looks like a hat or whatever accidentally.
Wrong word.
There's just things that happen. One time I just tried to charge a guy like 5,000 pesos instead of 200 pesos. So he was very confused. Just stuff like that's going to happen. So I was like, okay, that would be like the worst thing that could happen, is if I would go home and like I couldn't look back on this time and say, hey, I gave it my best. I pushed myself in these areas. I learned as much as I could. I left things on the table. And so then, you flip it around. Okay, how do I not do that? It means saying yes to things, even when it's really uncomfortable. Hey, I'm going to take that job at the cafeteria, even though it means talking with people and totally blowing an order because, I was out of it, or just said something, or it means playing volleyball with the league there, and I can't understand a word they're saying at first, just stuff like that. It's like, it basically what you just said, like the angle I came at it from was like, what's the worst thing that could happen here? If I
fear
don't
conditioning,
do this?
right?
Yeah.
Like the Tim Ferriss.
You have the best case scenario, you have the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a similar look, but it, like you said, then you flip it. It's like, okay, if I don't want, I know how to make this happen. Like I can guarantee that'll happen. Like you said, like I can guarantee I will not win. And then you flip it and it's the exact opposite. How can this is my guarantee that I will win, that I'll go home and I'll be satisfied with it. So I love that. And that that makes a lot of sense. I would have missed the like inversion part of it. For me, that's kind of cool, especially when working with other people, because you can like, when someone's all sad and depressed about their job or whatever, it's like, okay, well, let me just help you be a little bit more gloomy over here for a little while, and then you flip it and you're like, ta-da.
Yeah.
That can actually be really helpful because they made it themselves and they came up with these ideas, and it's like, okay, well, like here's how you don't go there anymore. And that's a good thing.
So when it comes to the winning concept, so that was the what side,
Yeah.
right? Like, what is it that you're trying to do? Guarantee that you would fail, flip it around, boom. Now you actually have a list of actionable items that like, oh yeah, I can learn to be more personable and charismatic or whatever. I'm just, again, that's just a nice one to use because typically people will say things, oh, I'm just not very good with people. I'm not very good at this, blah, 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 blah. Because they don't know how to do it. They're just kind of stuck. They're like, that's, so that's the what part. Then you get into the how, which it's just basically you're taking that concept and then just breaking it down into actionable steps. So basically we don't know how to do things because we haven't broken them down to their most basic form, really. So the more skilled you are, the more general a command can be for you to follow it. The less skilled you are, the more you will need it broken down into actionable steps. I can give you an example. That's how the difference is. So basically it makes a difference in the level of instruction that will be needed for each individual. So two people may go through the same training event and get just totally different results because the one has more of a framework to work with. So it comes down to the number of skills a person has and the number of skills required to understand and execute whatever that task is. So again, going back to the charismatic thing, if I say, hey, you want to sell this job to this client, whatever, to do that, you need to be more charismatic. Well, someone who has done what we just did, that exercise, has some more experience, be like, oh, got it. Yeah, that means I need to shake their hand. I need to use, I need to say their name. I need blah, blah, blah. Like they'll have a list. They'll know what that looks like. Yeah. Next guy who's maybe an introvert and he's new on the job will be like, oh, like, okay, like, great. Really helpful advice.
How do I do that?
I don't know what to do. So you see that the one has more skills, so you don't have to break down the command. The next guy, you may have to give him an actual to-do list. Hey, shake the guy's hand when it comes in. Say, remember his name. Like you may have to actually give him the list, and that's where you'd have to do that inversion thing with him. You can say the same with public speaking. That's one just like people just either freak out. Like some people, that is very hard for them. And again, it comes back to skill and experience level. You can say, marketing. Hey, I want you to take this product and market it. Okay, like, great.
See that one, I don't even know what would fail. I don't even know how to make that fail.
You would be completely stuck. Like you would be just like,
I don't even know what it is or anything. It's like, beats me.
So someone else hearing the same thing but not having the same skills could come away with the same teaching but have no results.
Right. Yeah.
So they hear the same thing, same teaching, but they don't have the same skills and they'll come away with no results. And that's extremely important to keep in mind, especially if you're working with a team.
Yeah,
and that's where you need to walk through it with them. So again, think of a command. You're on my team and we're working on whatever, product that we're building and be like, hey, go advertise. If you have skills in that and you know it and you have experience, you'd be like, cool, on it.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I'd have to tell you. Done. Easy peasy. Less skilled, we just hired him, Joe or Rick or whoever, the new guy, he comes and be like, go advertise. And he'd be like, how? He'll have no idea.
Yeah.
So this is where, again, we don't know how to do things because we haven't broke them down to their most basic form.
Yeah.
So we got the what, the how, break these things down. And now bringing it together with this statement, can you be successful if you break it, whatever it is that you're working on, break it down to the level where you literally cannot fail? Could you be successful? Well, the answer is yeah, actually you could, because then you could learn each of those steps.
Yeah.
So you may not know how to do each of the steps, but because it's been broken down to its absolute most basic form, you can figure out each step. It's basically adding the law of inversion with the break it down with skill levels. And there you go. So again, back to the charismatic thing. If I say, be more charismatic, you're like, what does that even mean? You would be confused. But if I come and give you a list, then it would be easy. Like, yeah, that's a skill. I can learn that. So the essence of good teaching and training is simply this. That is the essence. If you can learn it, it's a skill. If it's a skill, you can teach it.
Yeah.
So that, like, this is like... not rocket science, but it's amazing how much we miss this stuff. Like it's really breaking stuff down, really saying like, oh no, you can learn this. Like you can, we just need to break it down. And if they are really struggling and they just are not getting it, it's probably because whoever's trying to train them hasn't broke it down enough yet. Because they just don't know how to do each step. And if you can teach them each step, then I could say, go advertise. Oh yeah, I know all the steps.
Yeah.
No problem.
I
Cool.
keep coming back to Spanish all the time because that's just a giant learning festival. And that's basically everything we've talked about. It's like, yep. I remember learning that.
Yeah. Yeah. A really interesting way to think about it. You can measure intelligence. This is one way of doing it. You can measure intelligence by the rate of learning, as in how fast you change what you do in the same situation.
Yeah.
That's a marker of intelligence.
I think isn't the true skill of all of this though doesn't that come when you can do that very, very rapidly and like on the fly, where you're like faced with a problem and maybe without even consciously thinking about, okay, how would I fail at this? You know, like you just like that's just a part of the process of solving the problem. Like, I don't know. Yeah. That's kind of what stands out to me is like, once you learn the skill of doing this, it'll become like second nature and it'll start happening automatically, even though you're not even consciously thinking about it. And then when you hit like a really big problem, then you maybe still have to go back and write it out and like really see it.
Yeah.
But like, it's really like, I've noticed this in my own life with things becoming second nature and like skill stacking, basically, where like one skill stacks on the other. And that's really, really fun with something like this, because at first it's conscious and you like, you're kind of stumbling your way through it, but then after a little bit, it's easier and easier and easier, and you don't even have to think about it. And that's when it's really fun, because then you face a problem and you're like, 6 months ago, I would not have been able to figure this out very well. And you're just like, you can just see it so much more clearly. You can see the solution and where you need to go. And that is really fun. Like, that is what is so addictive about the learning process, is you can see that change, because we're constantly confronted with problems like this that we have to solve. So yeah, I think that's what stands out to me about what you said, is like, this isn't something that you have to remember every time you're like, oh, I got to figure this problem out. Let me go back to my notes and figure out how to do this again. Like, it will become like second nature to you. It will just kind of become a part of you. And you won't even have to think about it, which is so cool.
Well, it's so like a confidence, for example. There's equations and ways of measuring confidence. Like we tend to think of that as a, kind of what is that, but confidence is simply a percentage of certainty about an outcome. And that only comes when you've built enough experience and skills with that to have that confidence. Yeah. You basically, confidence can be learned, in a sense, depending on what the thing is. Obviously, if you've broke it down, if you've walked through the steps, now you can start building that confidence. So we're trying to get some frameworks here of like, so much in life that we get stuck on and just be like, oh, I can't do that. I can't be more charismatic. I can't remember people's names. I can't, whatever. You start breaking it down and suddenly you realize, actually, yeah, I could, but sometimes we need help. We need someone to come alongside us and help us break that down, break down whatever that thing is into chunks of skills that you can then learn. So if you can learn it, it's a skill.
Yeah.
And a lot of things, we put them in boxes and say that's not a skill. That's just something, that's a talent that you're either born with or you're not, and therefore I can't access that, which is a fallacy most times. Not always. I'm not 6'5", so therefore I'm not going to be in the NBA. So there are limits, obviously. Yeah. Doesn't matter how much inversion you do on that one, but I don't know. I think you see what I'm saying. So again, the confidence thing, percentage of certainty about an outcome. Yeah. And again, that builds with skill, that builds with experience.
I think it's cool that there's always equations like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of neat. Like, yeah. And the other thing I like about this is your brain is trying to solve the problem, even though you might not realize it. Like, if I say, okay, I want to be, an effective boss, or have an effective business and make a lot of money and whatever. If I inverted that, the idea, like, I'm probably not going to write down like lie all the time, because that's just like, there are certain things that's really not a problem for me. Like I don't lie actively, or at least I really, really try not to. Like that's not a part of my life. So I don't really need to write it down as something that, all right, make sure you don't lie, dude. Like really check that one off the list. You know, it's like your brain is already looking at, okay, what can't I do in this specific area? What is something that I have a problem with? And that's what you're going to focus on. And that's what's going to be your list. It's not like literally every single possibility. Your brain will automatically focus in on what you're struggling with or what you're not good at. And then when you invert that, it's going to be like the gold.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
And you're naturally going to probably do that sorting as you go
Don't
through the
punch
process.
someone in the face. Not a problem.
Good to know. Don't cheat on your taxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like suddenly a lot of things that are confusing are actually not that confusing when you can break them down.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when they're broken down into their base unit, then it removes the confusion. And then when the confusion is gone, it's suddenly like, oh, that makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah.
Cool. No factor. I got that. Again, this whole thing of, can you be successful if you break it down to the level where you literally cannot fail? Like you break it down to such small pieces. They're like, I know I can do every one of those pieces. I know that. I've broken it down enough. So then, could you be successful? The answer is probably yes. Now, there will always be those times there's factors outside your control. Sure, I get all that.
Right.
But that will make a huge difference. And there's so many people that get stuck because they're taking too big of pieces. They haven't broken down enough, or they don't know what the pieces even are. So they need to figure out this list of like, what are those things you need to be to make this work? Or what are the skills I need to learn? Okay, and how do I learn them? Like, start breaking it down. Break it down. And if it's still not working, break it down even more. You know, invert it, do whatever. And suddenly you'll start going from, oh, I'm that less skilled person that's asking, but how do I do that? And eventually you'll get to the point where it's the other way around. It's like, I'm not asking, but how? I already know how to do it because I built the skill in whatever the thing is. And I think this principle can apply about anywhere. Job is an obvious one, but even like family, relationships, things like that. What would it take to be a terrible friend? Well, yeah, I mean, I
can get that one.
Yeah, you start writing that down. And you're like, wow, yeah, okay, that's actually really helpful. Like I would be a really bad friend.
Newsflash, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. Okay, like make sure I don't do those things. Like a bad friend would never contact his friends, and you're like, oh, wait a second, like I actually haven't been in touch with my friends for a really long time, and suddenly it starts getting awkward, and you start realizing, you start seeing some flat spots that you didn't see before. I started doing this with some stuff, and I was like, I'm not so bad at that thing, and then I started writing it down. I'm like, ooh, yeah, actually, you start seeing a blind spot or two real fast. Yeah. There's a good way of getting you outside of your normal brain space and finding those spots that you're like, I missed that before.
Yeah. For sure.
So yeah, that's some of the basics here. I found it very helpful. Obviously this has its limitations with any model out there, but do remember, most anything can be learned. And if it can be learned, it's a skill. And if it's a skill, it can be taught. You can teach it to someone else. And then you start throwing in other things like, proper motive and consistency and a bunch of other stuff. And pretty soon, you're at some really neat places, really fast. But yeah, did you have anything else on the inversion thing?
I don't think so. It's very similar to what Tim Ferriss does with I forget what it's called.
Fear setting, I believe.
It might be fear setting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in his TED Talk, I think.
Yeah. It's very fascinating. Yeah. Really, really
his
good.
is a little different in that he doesn't flip it into a to-do list. He flips it into, oh, the situation isn't that bad, so therefore I can take this risk.
Yeah.
Well, that's something for y'all to chew about. Chew on that. Remember, be thinking about the future you. Like, it's so easy to make commitments and do things now that affect future you in a negative way.
Yeah.
So like really think about future you. What does future you need to know to execute on whatever this thing is? How do I learn this skill? How do I gain that experience and build that confidence in whatever the thing might be?
Right.
It just could be as simple as learning how to drive a car to learning how to fly an airplane. I don't know, whatever it is. Start using these principles. And it's amazing how many things out there are reverse engineerable. I guess that's a word.
Probably.
Yeah. Again, breaking it down to its base units and then building your skills from there. So one last quote to leave you with when it comes to building skills and confidence. There's a quote, I don't know where it's from, but I ran into this the other day. It said, "A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor." So the more things challenge and stretch you, if it's done properly, the more skills you'll build, which is not always fun in the moment, but know that you're building skills, you're building experience that will teach you things you won't have learned another way, and embrace that. Embrace the this idea of always trying to learn new things and building that confidence and stuff. Because a lot of people do just kind of get stuck and be like, I just can't learn it. Nope, not even gonna try. And then they shut down a whole areas of their life. It's like, oh, you could have, you could have learned that. You could have learned how to be a better dad or better employee or a better boss, whatever. And you just like, no, I just can't, man. It's too much work. I can't be a good boss. I'm just like one of Dad's clients was just like, I'm just a pain to work with. I'm just going to be upfront with you. I'm just no fun to work for right now. I'm like, dude, you really should work on that. Like, that is not cool. And he just freely admitted it. And guess what? He sure was a real pain to work with.
It's probably more a thing of significance for him.
I get
status.
I don't know. He just was like, I guess he just wanted to be that way. So yeah, don't be like that guy. Don't do that. Not cool. So anyway, I think that's all we got on this episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you all for listening or watching, as the case may be, because this is up on YouTube, and also Spotify has video now, so you can see it on Spotify.
Super
it's cool. As always, you can find all our stuff on our websites, austinschrock.com, reaganschrock.com. Follow us on the social medias, on YouTube, also on Goodreads, because we do a lot of reading, and you can see what cool
I've had a
books
lot of
we've
people
been-
on me that follow me there.
Yeah, you
cool.
find some interesting stuff. We can recommend each other's books and stuff. So, yeah, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.